Hello everyone. So welcome to the last session of our theme one. This is the last session, and today we'll talk about the British conquest of the Northwest. Now, as I told you last time, basically it is supposed to be the same session that is there with the session 6, 7, right? Session 7 and session 8 are in combined one session. But because it is a bit tricky, you have a lot of players you are working with. That's why I've divided the session into two parts. So last time we have read the seventh session, we have read about the story of the Nepal, right? We have read about the story of Bhutan. And one thing I'll suggest you, if you try to maintain the continuum that I tried, for example, the story of the Nepal and to the present state of Nepal. So what I'll suggest you that whatever you have read here in modern history and combine it with international affairs to come have a holistic view of this Nepal. It will certainly help you to get a perspective whenever you write about India-Nepal relationship or whenever you explain to someone else about India-Nepal relationship. The similar goes, similarly, the point is same for the Bhutan. After that, we have also read about the India-Nepal, India-Bhutan, then India and Myanmar. Right? We have read about the Burma story. You need to remember the wars, the years of the wars, the treaty, that the first treaty of Yandabu that is there, the treaties, and the at that time who was the Governor General. These are the facts that you have to remember with respect to your prelims preparation. Today we will turn our focus to the Northwest. Our whole discussion will be based on the Northwest. So for example, one will be Afghanistan, one will be the Sindh area. This is the Sindh area. Sorry, this is the Sindh area. Right? Sindh area, some here also. And the third will be your Punjab area. Right? These are the three areas where we will focus. If you recall, if you remember that all the attacks which have been there to India, whether it has been the Nadir Shah, whether it is the arrival of the Babur, or the Nadir Shah or Ahmad Shah Abdali, all the attacks have been from this area. So you can see that this area has always been under a lot of turmoil, isn't it? A lot of political flux is going on in this area. That is why you will see very shifting priorities in this area. The second point you can see, if you want to have a safety in this particular area. Now the Britishers have seen that how the Ahmad Shah Abdali has ruined India or the Nadir Shah has ruined India. The British have been witness to it. They have witnessed it, right? And that is why they want to create a buffer state or they want to control it themselves, this complete area. And they want to have the good people up there so that they can protect themselves from any invasions from this place, or they can protect the people, protect this their crown jewel, that is the India, that is said to be their crown jewel, from the Russian threat. At that time, the Russian threat was also very high. So these are the context in which the Anglo and Northwest relationship needs to be seen. Okay, so three parallel things we will read in the Northwest. First, how the Afghanistan was subdued, Afghans were subdued, how your Sindh was subdued after that in 1843, and then finally how the Punjab was subdued later on. So by 1850, the Britishers have subdued these places as well. And that's why these will come in the part of the conquest of the British. You can see the Sindh at this place. You can see Sikh Kingdom, and then this is the Afghanistan. Chalo. First, start with the Anglo-Afghan story. Anglo-Afghan story starts or ends, you can say, in the Afghanistan has always been a place of the great games. Whether it was in the times of the British, Russian threat from here and the British here, whether in the times of your 1979 when the Russian invasion happened, very critical event in the as far as the world is concerned. In fact, one of the biggest event to take place in the 1970s. One of the biggest event that has the repercussions even to this time in the form of the terrorism and the destruction of the you can say Afghanistan. Afghanistan is also very, very important. That's why it is known as the heart of Asia, isn't it? There is a heart of Asia summit because the peace in the Afghanistan is central to the peace in the South Asia Central Asia, and West Asia as well. So Afghanistan is a very important place if you want to establish peace in this place, and this place. And that's why it is being so turbulent, and that is why you see a lot of conflict in the Afghanistan. Okay? Somewhere down the line, whenever we have any discussion on, let's say, on Taliban, or when we'll have discussion over the modern day terrorism, we can discuss the story of the Afghanistan later on. Today, we are concerned with how the British Empire look at the Afghanistan and what they did. Okay? Chalo. So by 1800s, Russia and the Britain wanted to control the region only to deny it to the other, because they wanted to maintain this region as a buffer so that their own empires can be protected. Okay? So this Afghani is saying, protect me from my friends. Chalo, if we summarize the whole relation, we can see the context is obviously, from an English perspective, is the Russian influence or the Russian threat to be, so as to say. So you have the different policy being adopted. For example, the starting being done by Auckland. He adopted a policy that is forward policy. Next, you have the policy of the masterly inactivity. Under the forward policy, what happened? You have the first Anglo-Afghan War from 1839 to 1842. Then you have the policy of masterly inactivity. What does this mean? Masterly inactivity. So we will play an inactive role in it. And that was the John Lawrence. We'll see him. Then the policy of the proud reserve. That again the same idea that we need to protect the Afghanistan, or we need to have the Afghanistan as a frontier. And that policy was by the Lord Lytton. We need to remember all these governor generals and viceroy very importantly. This will be in very strong focus with my particular modern history as we go forward. As we step into the theme 2, you will see a very strong focus on the governor general. In fact, the whole theme 2 is divided into the governor generals and what has been done in their time period. Okay? So the policy of the proud reserves, in which you witness the second Anglo-Afghan War from 1870 to 1880. And then finally, Treaty of Gandhi happens, a small town in the Afghanistan near Kabul, in May 1879. Okay, let's start. Now, the context has been set by the Treaty of Turkmeche. You don't have to remember the name of the treaty, just need to know the context. It was a treaty which was signed by the Iran and the Russia. So the Russian influence has increased in this place. You can see 1826 and 28. That prompted the Britishers to pay more attention to their northwestern frontier, that is the Afghanistan. Right? This treaty made the Persia cede to Russia the control of the several areas. So now Russia is controlling a lot of these areas, and Russian invasion becomes inevitable for the Britishers. They can visualize that the Russian threat is there. And when they can visualize the Russian threat, they become very skeptic. Hence, George Auckland, who was the Governor General from 1836 to 1842, he adopted a forward policy. The forward policy meant, okay, first the context is there was a search for a scientific frontier from the Indian side, and the passes of the northwest seems to hold the key to enter India. That we have discussed. That the passes which are there, Khyber Pass and so many passes are there, that hold the key to this northwest, to the India basically. The need was felt for the Afghanistan to be under the control of the ruler who is friendly to the British. If he is friendly to the British, he can be the first line of resistance. If not, then he can be the person who can invite the other people to the India. Now, what does this forward policy mean? This forward policy meant that they have to adopt all the initiatives to protect the boundary of the British India from the probable Russian attack. The objective can be achieved either through having the friendly treaties with the neighbor countries, or alternately annexing them. Now, Dost Muhammad was there, the Amir of Afghanistan. He wanted the British friendship, Dost Muhammad, and he will be remaining a very important character in our story. Mr. Dost Muhammad, remember him. So Mr. Dost Muhammad wanted a British condition, but he said that I will sign a treaty with you with one condition, that I want to have recovery of the Peshawar from Sikh. Now, at that time also, what is happening? Let us see the map as well. Where is Peshawar? You can see this is the Sikh kingdom. Now, Sikh kingdom under the Ranjit Singh. Let us draw one map so as to understand. Just 1 minute. So at that time, the Punjab was also, here, let us see here. Yeah. Punjab was also expanding. We will see at the fag end of our discussion. Punjab was also expanding, but because there was Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh had made a lot of gains in the Punjab region. Now let's say this is the map of India, right? This is the current day boundaries. Now this is Peshawar. This is here is Lahore, near to India, and Peshawar is far away. The Sikh empire has expanded to a lot of place, and this Peshawar finally came near the Afghan territory. So those Muhammad wanted that I want the or the recovery of this Peshawar as well. Till the time British had some treaty with the Ranjit Singh. Now the Britishers have said you cannot make it conditional. Okay? And the Britishers also wanted for those Muhammad to break all his contact with the Iranians and the Russians. You can see the context in 1826-28 treaty when the Russian influence is increasing in the nearby areas. Okay? Hence, the Britishers decided, okay, those Muhammad is not listening to us. What we will do? We will work with the other Amir of Afghanistan who was not there. That means before those Muhammad, there was one more Afghan ruler. His name was Shah Shuja. Now he was deposed of the Afghan throne in 1809. So he also obviously wanted to regain the Afghan throne. Right? You have the Ranjit Singh with whom the British was working, and the British were already there. So they signed this tripartite treaty in 1838. They said that there are a lot of things are being said. For example, first of all, Shah Shuja he will be given the charge of the Afghanistan, and he will listen to the Britishers. He will be the British friendly person there. Shah Shuja. Those Muhammad needs to be deposed. Those Muhammad ko hatayenge. And then Shah Shuja will do one more thing. Shah Shuja will give up all the sovereignty over the areas in the Sindh. He will not do anything whatever the British do with the Sindh area, because you can see all these areas are nearby. So Shah Shuja says this whole treaty will return again when we will read about the Sindh area. Shah Shuja has promised that I will not look at the Sindh. Okay, British, you go ahead and do whatever you want to do with the British, whatever we want to do with the Sindh area. Now the Sikh was also helping him. So Sikh and the Britishers helped the Shah Shuja to defeat the Dost Muhammad. Let us see what are the things that being said. So let us see one by one. Shah Shuja will be reinstated on the throne. Sikh army will provide army to the Shah Shuja. So the Ranjit Singh will help Shah Shuja against the Dost Muhammad. Shah Shuja will determine the foreign policy with the advice of the British. So British will be advising the Shah Shuja with respect to the foreign policy, especially versus the Russian threat. Then Ranjit Singh's claim on the right bank of the Indus was recognized by Shah Shuja. Ranjit Singh's claim was also recognized by the Shah Shuja. Shah Shuja will give up on the Sindh, as we have discussed, and the British will remain in the background, and they will only get the money as well as the military security, whatever they want. Okay? This was a tripartite treaty which was signed in 1838. Very easy to understand. You see what you need to understand? You need to understand a few characters, few major events, and the story. That's it. Don't go too much into nitty-gritties of it. Just understand the story part of it. Then few characters. Those Muhammad, let's say, was a character. Shah Shuja is a character. That characters you need to understand. Ranjit Singh is a character that you need to understand. So that's why they have declared the first Anglo-Afghan War after this treaty. That they said, okay, we will enter into the Kabul, and those Muhammad surrendered, and Shah Shuja was made the Amir of the Afghanistan. So, bhai, those Muhammad's first reign came to an end in 1839. The war kept on going. Now, those Muhammad left, but the people of the Afghanistan did not accept Shah Shuja. They did not like Shah Shuja. So Afghanistan rose up in revolt, rebellion, and ultimately the British were compelled to sign the treaty, and the British evacuated Afghanistan, restored Dost Muhammad as Amir. Understood? So what happened there? What happened there? The people did not like the Shah Shuja. Dost Muhammad ne kaha, I won again, and I will start my second reign. So final outcome was, it was a very humiliating treaty that the British have to sign, but because the Afghanistan people have revolted. So the British were forced to recognize the Dost Muhammad as the Amir of Afghanistan, and Mr. Auckland's Afghan policy was criticized. That is the forward policy. So forward policy did not work well, and hence Mr. Auckland was sent back. He was replaced by Lord Ellenborough in 1842. This was your first Anglo-Afghan war. Then you can see the English have learned the lesson that no, one should not interfere a lot, and try to maintain a friendly relationship with the person who is popular in the Afghanistan. And hence they adopted the policy of the masterly inactivity. That means that we should, in between some events happen, don't need to remember. Between some events happen, this happened, that happened. No need to remember that. You just need to remember the stories. So a first Afghan war, an outcome of the practical common sense, that and the Afghan passion for independence. All these things in British understood. So the British decided that we will not do anything. We will pursue the policy of the masterly inactivity. We will not do anything. So Lawrence policy rested on the fulfillment of the conditions, that we will do masterly inactivity if and only if these are the conditions are met. First, the peace at the frontier was not disturbed. No candidate in the civil war would sought help. For example, in the Afghanistan, if there is a civil war, then no one should seek the help of the Britishers or any foreigner. Hence, after Dost Muhammad died, there was no succession battles. No, sorry, there was a succession battle, but there was no interference from the side of the British. Whosoever became the king after the Dost Muhammad died, British accepted him, and they said, we will befriend you. We don't want to interfere into your affairs. That is it. Acha ji. Then came the Lytton. Now, Lytton is known for his reactionary policies and known for his expansionism. We will read Lytton in detail. Very important Governor General. So Lytton was a nominee for the conservative government under Benjamin Disraeli. Sorry. He started the policy of the Proud Reserve. He started the foreign policy of the Proud Reserve, which was aimed at having the scientific frontiers and safeguarding the sphere of influences. So they have to safeguard the sphere of the influences. Okay? This is the work of your Lytton. And he said that this ambiguous policy of masterly inactivity is not good. We should not make it ambiguous. Rather, we should have a concrete focus on this policy, on our Afghan policy. So Lytton ने बोला that okay, ऐसा करते हैं, let us make some favorable treaty to Sher Ali, right? But Amir said that I want to maintain this arm's length distance between both the people, that is Russians and the British. Now the Lytton says no, this is not acceptable to me. Lytton was displeased, and when the Russian withdrew their envoy from the Kabul, Lytton decided to invade the Afghanistan. They decided, okay, now we will invade the Afghanistan and we will take it up. And Sher Ali fled, and Yaqub Khan was put into the charge. And then they have signed this treaty, that is Treaty of Gandamak. Understood? So when Lytton came, he decided that I don't want this ambiguity. I don't want this masterly inactivity. No. I will actively interfere into the Afghanistan. I'll make sure that all my frontiers are established and all my frontiers are safe. Now, Treaty of Gandamak was signed in 1879. They have signed this Treaty of Gandamak. Gandamak is a place near Jalalabad, nearby Kabul. This is in Afghanistan. Now, Treaty of Gandamak, that the treaty signed after the Second Anglo-Afghan War, provided the Amir conduct his foreign policy with the advice of the British. A permanent British resident will be there. The government of India gave army all the support against the foreign aggression. But again, the same problem was there, that Yaqub has to abdicate under the popular pressure. People did not like him. And the British had to recapture the Kabul and the Kandahar. But the plans could not carry on. It was not a successful adventure of the British the second time around as well. Lytton wanted to again break the Afghanistan into many parts, but that did not happen. And after Lytton happened to be a good governor general, that is Lord Ripon, and he abandoned the policy altogether. And Ripon again said that we need to maintain Afghanistan as a buffer. That's it. So just have a friendly relationship, no annexation, nothing we will do. This was under the policy of the Ripon. You see a lot of changes of the policy happen after the Lytton to Ripon, that we will see when we'll talk about the British administration. Lytton was as reactionary as possible, while the Ripon was really good for Indians, on the relative scale, obviously. Then after that, after World War One, the Afghans demanded the independence. They got independence in 1921. They recovered independence in their foreign affairs. Then the story of the another Afghanistan starts, which leads finally to the 1979 and the rise of the Taliban. So this is whole Afghanistan, British Afghanistan story. So what we have read in this whole story, let us summarize very quickly. Very quickly, let's summarize the story. We understood that the Afghanistan problem was seen from the lens of the Russian influence and increasing Russian influence in the Persia, that is in Iran. Right? First thing. Then Auckland came here and he drove a forward policy that either we need to annex him or sign a very friendly treaty with the people there. Okay? Then Mr. Auckland comes up with this forward policy, and then he signs a treaty with he offered Dost Muhammad as well. But Dost Muhammad wanted some conditions in that he wanted, no, I want Peshawar also to be included in my there. The British said, no. We have a treaty with the Ranjit Singh and we'll work with Ranjit Singh, myself and Shah Shuja, who was earlier an Afghan, and we'll work things out among us. Then they invaded the Afghanistan, first Anglo-Afghan War, 1839 to 1842. Then they went ahead and they put Shah Shuja in the Afghanistan throne. But what happened? Shah Shuja has to leave because of the popular pressure, rebellion, and Dost Muhammad was reinstated. Then the British forward the policy of the masterly inactivity, that we won't interfere into your thing, because they can see that Afghanis want a lot of independence. Then came the policy of the Lytton, that he pursued the policy, right? And then he said, no, there need not to be any ambiguity. Policy of proud reserve. There cannot be any ambiguity in our approach to the Afghanistan. And then finally that policy was also, that led to the Second Anglo-Afghan War. And then again the British has to backtrack because of the popular pressure again. So this is the whole story of the Afghanistan. Let's come back and let's talk about the second story, that is the Anglo-Sindh story. Okay, Sindh is this area. Now Anglo-Sindh story, you can see a very unfortunate story of a Sindh. Someone has described it as a story. For example, when you're fighting with the big people, it's been given by the historians. When a man is fighting with the greater odds and they cannot defeat them, so the man comes to his wife, he comes to his home and he beats up his wife. That is the story has been described with the Anglo-Sindh, and we will see how the Britishers have captured the Sindh reflects that sentiment. That galti kisi aur ki, the mistakes have been committed by the Britishers or the other power is powerful, and they end up annexing the Sindh, and we will look at it. So the story starts with the British getting a farman in 1630 that, okay, go ahead and start your factory there. But finally, after some time, that factory has to be closed because some Amir said, no, we cannot allow you there. Then Mr. Fatah Ali Khan establishes the Char Yar, the 4 people, and they divided the Singh kingdom into these 4 Amirs. Right. Then the same problem that is there, the threat of the invasion from Russia, and at that time Russia has joined hand with the Napoleon. So there was a threat that this invasion can happen. So Minto has led a lot of delegation to a lot of people to different places. And threat of invasion led Minto to sign the Treaty of Eternal Peace with the Amirs of the Sindh. This is the Minto at the Governor Generalship of Minto. Then in 1832, Sindh signs a treaty with the William Bentinck. They signed a treaty with the William Bentinck. Then the tripartite agreement that we have read in 1838. And then finally Subsidiary Alliance, and then annexation was done in 1843. Finally, the Sindh was annexed in 1843. So this is the complete story, a very snapshot of the India relation between Anglo and Sindh. Let us look at one by one. So earlier story, nothing to repeat there. Charyar was there. Then the threat of the invasion. From there we start the story. And they have signed this 1809, that is a Treaty of Eternal Friendship. So it was against the alliance of the Russia and the French, and the British was very worried that what will happen to us. Hence the Minto has sent a lot of delegation, Metcalfe to Lahore, Elphinstone to Kabul, Malcolm to Tehran, and Nicholas Smith to Sindh. So this treaty was signed with the Nicholas Smith. What was said in the treaty? It was said that the Amirs will exclude all the French from the Sindh. One agent has to be established, that is the British person will be established in their kingdom, and that Sindh person will be there in the British kingdom. And 1820, the treaty was again renewed, and they have included that now Americans also needs to be excluded, and they need to resolve small the border disputes that are there. So everything is going fine. Treaty of Eternal Peace is signed. Okay, fine. Amirs of Sindh said, okay, fine. Then William Bentinck signed one more treaty. He has sent Colonel Pottinger to Sindh, and he has said that signed one more treaty with the Amirs. Now the Russian threat, or you can say the French threat, has receded now because Napoleon has lost the war. And the Battle of Waterloo in 1814. Napoleon has lost. So they say that the free passage through Sindh would be allowed to the English traders and the travelers. The treaty being signed between the British and the Amirs, that the free passage through the Sindh will be allowed to the British trader, but the British trader will not settle down in the Sindh, and the passport will be needed. So it is a two-way treaty that is there. So tariff rates can be altered by Amir if there is some changes they want to make, and some other points also not very important. More importantly, you need to remember these two first points. Treaty being signed with the William Bentinck. Then Mr. Auckland comes. Mr. Auckland with his forward policy for Afghanistan. So Mr. Auckland comes, Sindh he sees from the perspective of the Russian invasion and the influence over the Afghan. He wants to maintain his influence over the Afghan, because now he's also trying go back into the clock and think. He's preparing for the first Anglo-Afghan war. Then he does this 1838 treaty. He signs a treaty with the Amirs first. Treaty is signed that at the capital of the Sindh, they will assign some troops of the British. And if there is a fight between the British and the Afghan, because we are protecting you against the Afghanis as well, you will do what? You will pay us at our expense. So the expense will be paid by the Amirs of Sindh. And at that 1838, Amir became a protectorate state. That we will protect you. You are now a protectorate state. Understood? Now that tripartite treaty comes here again. Remember, Shah Shuja has promised that I'll give up all my sovereignty to this area, to the Britishers. I have no control over the area of the Sindh. Right? Now the British were totally in control of the Sindh. You can see here the preparation of it. Then in 1839, formally Subsidiary Alliance being signed. We'll see what is Subsidiary Alliance, as I've discussed when we'll discuss Lord Wellesley. So finally, the Subsidiary Alliance being signed, Amir has to pay money and also the consent for the abrogation of the article of the 1832, which prohibited the movement of the English troop in the Sindh by land and the river. So now British has made everything favorable to them. Slowly and slowly, you can see the ground layer laying for the annexation, eventual annexation. Amirs were banned from having any negotiation with the foreign states without the knowledge of the company. So now you see that Amirs now subjugated like anything. And finally, the capitulation of the Sindh, Sindh divided, and the different parts of the Sindh are saying that, okay, go ahead and annex us. So you can see first Anglo-Afghan War happened on the Sindh soil, 1839 to 42. And the expenses were paid by the Amirs. Now, but Amirs were never thanked for whatever they have done. And the British lost. Both the things happened. Amir are not getting anything and the British also lost. So British are more furious. So they signed more treaties with the Amir and they say, cede more territory, give us more territory, give us more money. Because war takes a lot of money and the British have lost it. And the Athens Amirs have finally said, no, we will revolt. Finally, they have revolted, but tell them that was too late. Till then, it was too late. All the British troops were there and they captured they put all the Amirs as captives and they banished them to other places. And finally, under the governor generalship of Ellen Bow, who came after the Auckland, the Sindh was merged into the British Empire and the Charles Napier was appointed as the first governor. This is the story of the Sindh. Understood? आप देखेंगे it's a very small and a very straightforward one way traffic hai with the Sindh. Sindh was seen through the lens of the Russian invasion and importantly Afghanistani invasion, because Afghanistan was a main hurdle for the British to crack, big nut to crack, tough nut to crack, and the price was paid by the Sindh in doing so. And this is what the story that you have to remember. If you see, this is being written, Elphinstone has written, coming from the Afghanistan, it put one in mind of bully who has been knocked in the streets and went home to beat his wife in their revenge, said by the Elphinstone. Right? So causes for the annexations were deliberately manufactured, like the episodes in the British conquest. Afghanistan war is a tale of bullying tactics and deceit. In the instance of the first Afghan war, the English suffered terribly at the hands of the Afghan with the corresponding loss of prestige. And to compensate that, they have annexed the area of the Sindh. This is the story of the Sindh. Okay? Chalo. Now, the last story that we have to discuss today is the Anglo Sikh story. What we have to discuss? The Anglo Sikh story. Now, the first part of the Sikh story, that is all the gurus that are there that you need to know, that becomes the part of your medieval history. Maybe after the course is finished, I'll look at it up if I don't know whether it's being taught you or not. But if I look it up and I can add one extra lesson in between, for example, 7A or 8A, like that. But I'm not covering it here. The story of the gurus from the Guru Nanak Dev to the Guru Gobind Singh. We are not covering that. We are covering the time of the British conquest, which is relevant to us from the modern history perspective. Okay? Because at that time, the Mughal, the problem with the Mughals and all, Mughals here also, we have given just the reference of the Mughals. And we've read about the later Mughals. Why? Because the later Mughals comes after the period of the 1750s. So the Anglo-Sikh story, let's start from the context. So we have seen that the Punjab was a battleground for, this place was battleground for the invasions. And that is why you can see a lot of anarchy in this place. Till the time Guru Gobind Singh was there, or the Guru, very strong Guruship was there, and it was backed by a military, it was fine. But then after the death of the strong leader, what happens? Anarchy. Small leaders with the small armies that were there. So a lot of consolidation needs to be done. And that consolidation was finally done by the Ranjit Singh. A lot of missiles were there, groups. Then we have to read the times of the Ranjit Singh, what happened in the times of the Ranjit Singh. Then we'll read about the first Anglo Sikh War, then the death of the Ranjit Singh, obviously. After the death of the Ranjit Singh, what happened? The first Anglo Sikh War. And after the first Anglo Sikh War, we have the second Anglo Sikh War. And after that, the Punjab was annexed. You have to remember these two treaties, Treaty of Lahore and Treaty of Bhairowal. Very easy. First, you need to see the story of Ranjit Singh. What was the time of the Ranjit Singh? What happened after Ranjit Singh? That prepared the ground for the first Anglo Sikh War. So remember, there was no Ranjit Singh in the Sikh Wars, Anglo Sikh Wars. Ranjit Singh was such a strong character, British wanted to establish a friendly relationship with him rather than an adversarial relationship with him. Then that prepares ground for the first Anglo Sikh War and then prepare grounds for the second Anglo Sikh War. बहुत easy है. It's easy to understand. Now, what will happen? For example, you have a lot of anarchy in the places. You have a lot of missiles that is there. So Ranjit Singh comes and he consolidates each and every one. And he establishes a Sikh empire. He expands in his time. He does a lot of treaties with the Britishers. For example, we'll see Treaty of Amritsar he will do. And the tripartite agreement later on he will sign. Okay? He'll consolidate his empire. Then he will die. Right? Obviously. When he will die, because he's such a strong leader and he has managed these much people, anarchy will prevail again. And in that anarchy, the Britishers now have the chance to use that anarchy to get the things done, to capture the Punjab as well. Okay? Chalo, let us start. So you see the Sikh kingdom becoming very large at the 1849 or at the time of the, or that much expanded by the Ranjit Singh. We'll look at that map again. Let us start with a bit of story. Okay, so Aurangzeb was not initially hostile to the Sikhs, but later on, what happened? The religious intolerance, which was led by the Aurangzeb, for example, not respecting the other religion, and so many things that he has, for example, destruction of the temple, the gurudwaras, and all these things made the Sikh opposite, a lot of opposition from the Sikh. After the death of the Guru Gobind Singh, Banda Bahadur rallied together the peasants of the lower caste of Punjab, and he has carried on a lot of movements. He has done a lot of movements against the Aurangzeb. He failed because the Mughal center was still strong and the upper class of the Punjab joined forces against the Banda Bahadur for his championship of the lower caste and the rural people. So the upper caste joined the elite people. And again, you have the invasions of the Nadir Shah and the Ahmad Shah Abdali happening from this area. That has given a lot of anarchical situation that is prevailing in the Punjab area. So there was a big political vacuum. Okay. So at that point, Sikh polity became much more horizontally structured as missiles, as the combination based upon the kinship ties and now held territories as units. So the small missiles have came and they have established their small kingdoms, you can say, very small kingdoms. One of the kingdom was Surya Chakra missile, Sukar Chakya missile, sorry, Sukar Chakya missile. And that Sukar Chakya missile was born the Ranjit Singh. And Ranjit Singh, over the period of time, led a very centralized Sikh state that we've discussed. So combining all of them, but using a very centralized system, not a decentralized one, just like the Maratha Confederacy that we have studied. Not that one. He raised a very centralized Sikh state at the end of the 18th century. So you can see this thing when Guru Gobind Singh died, Banda Bahadur rose up against the revolt against the Mughals. He was defeated by the Farooq Siyar and he died in the reigns of the Farooq Siyar. He was leaderless. He led a lot of leaderless movements. And there was a lot of anarchy that we have all discussed. We will discuss it again. If you have read in the medieval history, then that's fine. Otherwise, we'll look at the Sikh story. in a separate lecture, but that would be after all your lessons are complete, modern history, because that is not part of your modern history. So Sikh consolidated in the missiles military brotherhood with a democratic setup, and they started to reign Punjab again. Then the entry of the Ranjit Singh will happen. Ranjit Singh was from the Sukar Chakia missile. He followed the policy of blood and iron and carved out himself a kingdom in the central Punjab. And then he, by 1805, he has captured a lot of places: Jammu and Kashmir, political capital Lahore, religious capital Amritsar, and he has carved out a huge kingdom for himself, Mr. Ranjit Singh. Right? This was the story of Ranjit Singh. He had a very good relationship with the Britishers. Now remember the times of the, as we have discussed, 1809, 1808, when there was a threat of the Russian and more importantly the French threat. So Metcalfe wanted to have a very offensive defensive alliance with the Ranjit Singh. So a partnership of equals, so as to say, because Metcalfe was a sent by Minto. We have read that. So Metcalfe wanted to have an alliance of an equal with the Ranjit Singh because he needed Ranjit Singh. So there was a prospect of the joint Franco-Russian invasion, and that alarmed the Britishers. So what they have said, that the British will remain neutral in the case of Sikh-Afghan War. It would recognize the Ranjit Singh's sovereignty over entire Punjab, including the Malwa. So these were the talks which were about to happen. Remember, these were not happened, but they were about to happen at an equal level. But what happened? Suddenly there was a fall of the failed. That alliance failed, and the Napoleon danger receded. And now the British were more assertive. The threat of the Napoleon receded, and now the British are becoming more assertive. When they became more assertive, Ranjit Singh lost his leverage. Then he has to sign the Treaty of Amritsar, which has restricted him. He has to restrict himself rather than a favorable treaty. So for Ranjit Singh, Treaty of Amritsar was not a happy one, you can say. So Ranjit Singh signed the Treaty of Amritsar in April 25th, 1809 with Charles T. Metcalfe representing the company. By the Treaty of Amritsar, the English recognized him as the sole sovereign ruler of Punjab, and the Satluj River became the boundary between them. Earlier, he was gaining more territory, but now he has to confine himself in the south to the Satluj River. Okay? By the time of his death, his authority was recognized in the territory between the river Satluj and the mountain ranges of Ladakh, Karakoram, Hindu Kush, and the Sulema. So you can see this map. So Satluj River till here and to this particular area. So this huge empire of Ranjit Singh. Now the Britishers know that Ranjit Singh is strong, and then anything that happens that can breach this agreement, the Britishers want a context to annex or to interfere. Common modus operandi of the British. So they require a context to interfere into the Punjab affairs and to annex the Punjab. They're just looking for an opportunity to do that. And after the death of the Ranjit Singh, they will get this opportunity. The Treaty of Amritsar, as we have discussed, so Ranjit Singh, after obviously Treaty of Amritsar, what he did, he focused on its energies to the west, for example, Multan, Kashmir, Peshawar. You can see 1834 Peshawar. This is what is wanted by the Dost Muhammad. Dost Muhammad ne bola tha na to the Auckland that I want this particular thing from the Ranjit Singh, but Auckland ne mana kar diya. Auckland said no, no, no. So this Treaty of Amritsar has restricted the most cherished ambition of the Ranjit Singh to extend his rule, Sikh nation, to create a big Sikh nation, and he has restricted to only the Satluj boundary. Okay. Then 1838, as we have discussed, he was compelled to sign this tripartite agreement that he will help the, let's say, this Afghan guy, Shah Shuja. Right. So the relation between the Ranjit Singh and the company weaker, but he maintained the balance of power. So this was the the relationship between the Ranjit Singh and the English. So remember the Treaty of Amritsar, Satluj River being signed. The treaty was not favorable to the Ranjit Singh, and the Ranjit Singh, but still he went on. He conquered more area on the west and on the north. This is what he did. Now, Ranjit Singh ruled. When he ruled, he maintained a very careful balance between the powerful Sikh chiefs and the freshly recruited military commanders, because he recruited the military commanders from many areas. For example, peasants of the central Punjab, non-Punjabi nobles such as Dogra Rajputs from the Jammu. So you have the earlier Sikh chiefs, the head of these missiles, as well as you have the new military leaders, such as you can imagine the Hyder Alis of Tipu Sultan, like that. Not here, obviously. Very strong military leaders. And that delicate balancing was done by a very strong leader, that is the Ranjit Singh. But when Ranjit Singh was gone in 1839, that is bound to create the problems. Right? So after a decade after his death, after 1839, within the 10 years, Sikh empire disappeared from Punjab. Okay, we'll see. Now imagine what happened after the death of the Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh death happened. His army, which is very strong, his a lot of the military, the leaders strong, and all are looking for an opportunity to control the area. Now Ranjit Singh's successor, if they are weak, what will happen? They will be murdered, or they will be annexed. They will be put as a puppet. There will be the stories of treachery. There will be the stories of war of successions. There will be the stories when in the Afghanistan war, in the first Afghan war, a lot of military leaders, of army leaders of the Ranjit Singh have died as well while supporting the Britishers. Plus, you will see the economy falling. So these are the times after the Ranjit Singh. Let us see the politically what happened. So after Ranjit Singh, his son, that is Khalak Singh, he died after very quickly. Then the Khalak Singh's son, now Nihal Singh, died very soon when he's returning from his father's funeral. Then Sher Singh, he was again murdered after 3 years, 1843. Then Dilip Singh, the minor son of the Ranjit Singh, became the king or chief, and with the Rani Jindal as the queen regent, just like Tarabai for the Rajaram. Not Rajaram was his husband for Shivaji too. So Rani Jindal became the queen regent. Now Raji Jindal also have the problem to select his wazir. A lot of wazirs were selected, then they killed or died, then they killed or died, and finally Lal Singh became the wazir, who is said to be the lover of the Rani Jindal. And the Teja Singh was the commander of the force. Finally, they settled at this combination. So this is the story. You can see a lot of turmoil that is there after the death of the Ranjit Singh that is there. Now the Britishers are watching, and they are looking for a excuse to enter into this Punjab crisis, and they take over this Punjab area. And they are looking for this Satluj boundary. They have stationed a lot of troops in these places. Now Sikh here also watching this. Now Britishers have put a lot of this here. Plus the Sikhs have also seen what has happened to the Sindh in 1843. How they have taken over the Sindh. Now the Sikhs are watching this, and they are watching a lot of territory in. That bound to create a lot of anxiety among the Sikhs. है ना? चलो इसको एक बार revise कर लेते हैं. So Ranjit Singh died, inefficient, cause of anarchy, plans and counter plans to capture Lahore, and decisive opportunity for a decisive action for the British army. The pillar of the Sikh state was far less strong. Able generals died, not happy with the regularity of the payment, a lot of indiscipline, money was less. The British army used to get to the Afghanistan through Punjab, so it created a lot of commotions and economic dislocations. Death of the sons, as we have discussed, and finally they have settled to this Lal Singh and the Lal Singh as a wazir, and your Mr. Teja Singh as the commander of the force. Remember the Lal Singh name. That then became the context of the first Anglo Sikh War. So first Anglo Sikh War, the Sikh army has crossed the Satluj River. Now that is the cardinal thing that they have done. And the British English saw this as an aggressive maneuver and the justification for the British to declare the war. That now we will declare the war against you because now you have breached the 1809 Treaty of Amritsar. Within that, some local contexts were already there. The struggle for the domination within the court and the local army, increase in the number of troops stationed near the border with the Lahore kingdom, the way the British have annexed the other cities, other places, Gwalior, Sindh, we have seen, right? So it created anxiety among the Sikhs. Now the Lal Singh, who was supposed to be the Wazir, he committed a treachery. And the British have lost the 5 successive defeats they lost. And hence they have to sign a Treaty of Lahore. Okay? They have to sign this Treaty of Lahore. So the Treaty of Lahore, the strength of the Sikh army was reduced. It was a very humiliating treaty. War indemnity, they have to pay around 1 crore to the Britishers. They have to sell this Jammu and Kashmir to the Gulab Singh, and they will see, which will create a problem again. Jalandhar Doab was annexed to the company's dominion. Company got more territory. British resident has to be placed in at the Lahore, Henry Lawrence. So this was a humiliating treaty for the Sikhs as well. Then you see, when the Jammu and Kashmir was given to the Gulab Singh, the other Sikh chiefs were not happy. So another treaty was signed, that is Treaty of Bhairawal. Okay. And then again, this Rani Jindal as the regent and the Council of Regency has been created, and the de facto ruler has become the Britishers. Britisher became the de facto ruler with the Council of Regency. Okay? Because that was presided over by the Henry Lawrence. Now, you see what is the situation. Rani Jindal has faced a lot of humiliation. Now, she enjoyed a lot of reputation and respect within the Sikh community. So it was a humiliating treaty that was there for the Rani Jindal. Inhuman treatment that was meted out to him. In that, after some time, a mass uprising happened in Multan. And that gave the pretext to the Dalhousie. The same work has been done by the Dalhousie also. He was just looking for the context to get over and conquer the territories. We will read, when we'll read Dalhousie, the doctrine of lapse, for example. So during the course, the Lord Dalhousie himself proceeded. 3 important battles were being fought, and the final annexation has taken place. So Battle of Ramnagar, Battle of Chinwala, and Battle of Gujarat, which is a small town near their river Chenab. Or Jhelum, I'm not sure. But it is in the Punjab, Gujarat area, not Gujarat state. So these battles were fought, and every battle, after the battle, Sikh lost. Finally, the Sikh army surrendered, but they fought very bravely, just like the Gorkha army after 1814-1816 war. Hence, British recruited a lot of Sikh soldiers within their British army. So it increased the mutual respect for each other's fighting prowess. And finally, these Sikh soldiers will come again and will fight from the side of the Britishers when the revolt of 1840-57 will be happening. Okay. When the Dalhousie did so, Dalhousie was praised and he was given a lot of promotion, a lot of praise, a lot of accolades have been given to him. 3-member board to govern the Punjab was there, and the chief commissioner was the Harry John Lawrence. Okay. So this is the story of your Anglo Sikh War. So just to reiterate, we started with the story of Ranjit Singh, the times of the Ranjit Singh and the death of the Ranjit Singh. Within the time of the Ranjit Singh, we have looked at the Treaty of Amritsar 1809. It was not a good treaty for Ranjit Singh because he's restricted his empire till the boundary of Satluj, but he expanded westwards and the northward. But when Ranjit Singh died, obviously there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil, a lot of problems. Right? Then happened your first Anglo Sikh War and the times of the Lord Headinge. So Treaty of Lahore and Treaty of Bhairawal were being signed. Then again the type of treaties which were done. Secondly, the rebellion, the revolt which has happened in the Multan. has provided the context for the Anglo Sikh War, second Anglo Sikh War, and which has led to the end of the Sikh empire in the Punjab. The last very small story is left out, that is Anglo Tibet story. Okay, so let's look at it. Anglo Tibet story is being seen, for example, Tibet is being ruled by is a theocracy of the British monks under the nominal suzerainty of the China. So China is there, but they're enjoying a lot of autonomy. They've enjoyed always a lot of autonomy. Okay, because it was a very different kingdom. It has a very different geographical features, very away from these mainland China. British tried to establish the friendly relation with the Tibet because obviously they wanted to create it as a buffer state. But later on, they can see that the Russian influence was increasing in the Lhasa, that is in the Tibet. There were reports of Russian arms and ammunition coming into the Tibet. Now the Lord Curzon became very, no, that needs to be controlled. And it happened way far, way ahead. We are talking of the 1900s. हम बहुत आगे चले गए. So 1900s. So Curzon felt alarmed and sent a small Gorkha contingent under the Colonel Young Husband, remember the name, on the special mission to Tibet to oblige the Tibetan to come to agreement. So Tibet done the non-violent resistance, and Young Husband pushed his way into Lhasa while Dalai Lama fled. So after they have to sign this treaty and all this, and when the treaty was signed finally, the main winner came out of it was China. Why? Because the British agreed that any foreign relation has to be conducted, anything has to be negotiated by the Tibet, it has to take the permission of the China. So mediation of the Chinese government has to take place. So earlier Chinese government was not too much interfering into Tibet, but this convention has given them a lot of leverage or lot of points to be, so that they became a very important player in the Tibet story. And we all know that what happened after 1949, how the Tibet was annexed slowly and slowly by the China. But however, the main point of the Curzon policy was to versus the Russian threat, not the Chinese government, and where he succeeded. So he eliminated the Russian threat, but obviously the main winner was the China. Very small story of Tibet. We'll do one question and we'll see it. For example, let us do this particular question. Consider the following statement in the context of the Anglo-Tibetan relation in the 20th century. A mission led by the Young Husbandman was sent by the Lord Curzon to invade the Tibet. A Treaty of Lhasa in 1904 between the Great Britain and the Tibet led to the proposal of the McMahon Line. Now, first statement is right, obviously, because let us see. So at the turn of the 20th century, Tibet remained one of the last uncontrolled region in the Great Game between the Russian and the Britain. Because now at this time, by the 20th century, at the turn of the 20th century, everything is being conquered. Punjab, Afghanistan, and the Sindh. British invasion in 1904, instigated by the Lord Curzon, right, under the Francis Edward Young Husbandman. So objective of the British through this mission were economically to develop Indo-Tibetan trade and exploit its rich mineral resources. Politically wanted to safeguard national northern frontier. Okay? So till that, Tibetan authorities blocked all the efforts to penetrate it. And finally, they have signed this particular treaty. Okay? Now, you can see some of the things being done. Tibet has to pay around 25 lakh rupees as indemnity. Chumbi Valley has to be occupied by the British for 3 years. Chumbi Valley, very important place, huh? It remains in news. We have discussed that. British trade mission to be stationed at this particular place in Tibet, Yanse. And on their part, the Tibetans agree not to admit the representative of any foreign power into the Tibet. And all the intermediation will be done by the Chinese government. Okay. Now this McMahon Line, this one. This McMahon Line was discussed at the Shimla conference. The Shimla conference happened in 1913 and 14, between the Tibet and the Great Britain, with the Chinese participation, and they negotiated the status of the Tibet and Tibet-India frontier, and which was known as the McMahon Line. Now this is being said by the China that we were not present, we were not the parties, and that's why when in 1949 when the China gained independence or they became the PRC, they said that we don't agree to this Shimla conference. But the India says that you were there, you were the party at that time. Tibet was under your suzerainty, so obviously you were the party to it, and that is where the conflict at the eastern front between India and China stems from. Okay, very easy to understand. So the option is obviously the second statement is right. That is not the Treaty of Lhasa, but your Shimla conference. This is your Treaty of Lhasa. Okay, so first statement is right only. Let us see the second question. Consider the following pairs in the context of the treaty made by the British with the various kingdoms. First, the Treaty of the Perpetual Friendship, the Treaty of Eternal Friendship, Treaty of Titalia. Titalia. Pause the video and try the answer. Treaty of Perpetual Friendship, Treaty of Eternal Friendship, and Treaty of Titalia. Now, these kind of questions you can expect. First, with the Amir of Sindh, we have signed the Treaty of the Eternal Friendship. Yaad rakhna. You can remember such as wife wala example with the wife, and what is happened? Eternal hota hai na? Wife ke saath relation. You can remember from that story. So wife's relation is eternal in nature. Hence, we have signed the Treaty of Eternal Friendship with the Sindh, Amirs of Sindh. Then you have the story you know. The Auckland, Napier, and Treaty of Perpetual Friendship between the Maharajas Ranjit Singh and the Britain. And finally, the tripartite agreement treaty with the English Shah Shuja and the Dost Muhammad. Okay? So this is your Treaty of Perpetual Friendship with the Sikh, and this Treaty of Titalia is signed between the Kingdom of Sikh and the British East India Company. Now we have not read this, not very important. So Treaty of Titalia was signed between the British after your 1814 and 1816, that is the Nepal War. This treaty was signed, Treaty of Titalia, between the Chogyal monarch of the King of Sikkim and the British East India Company. They have said, okay, ki bhai, we will give you the territory and you will give us the money. That's it. Okay? So guaranteed security of the Sikkim by the British and returned Sikkim land annexed by the Nepalis over the centuries. So British will say to the Sikkim kingdom that we will provide you all the safety that you want. Just give us the money. That's it. So British wanted some money and they'll say we will secure you from all the kingdom. So Treaty of Italia is by the Bhutan kingdom. These two are right. So 1 and 2 are right, and this is the third is wrong. Let us see the last question and the last question of our discussion today. Arrange the following conquest empire by the British in 18th and 19th century in the chronological order: Bengal, Madras, Mysore, and Punjab. You can pause the video and try this answer. We have all discussed it. For example, you have to arrange chronologically when each and every one is conquest. This particular lesson has been boring. I know a lot of stakeholders, a lot of treaties are there. That's why I'll suggest you revise these theme a lot. Because in modern history, this is being the trickiest portion. With theme 1 is the trickiest. Theme 1 and the second last theme will be trickiest. And within this theme, these last 2 sessions, because you have a lot of stakeholders you are dealing with. Dost Muhammad, this person, that person, Ranjit Singh, this treaty, that treaty, too much to remember. But if you recall some stories and you are able to build up that background and build up that story, then everything becomes easy. But I know, especially for those students, those who are studying it for the first time, I know it's a relatively tough ask. Now, British established first the Bengal, right? Captured Bengal in 1757. Then they captured the Mysore, that is 1799. Then they captured the Maratha finally in 1818. And finally, they captured the Punjab in 1849. So this is how you will get your answers done. बहुत आसान सा हो जाएगा. Firstly, you have the first Bengal, then you have the Mysore, then you have the Marathas, then you have the Punjab. You can be asked such questions in your examination, so be ready with that. Okay? So with this, we finish our eighth session and the first theme of the European arrival and India in 18th century. Obviously, today we have discussed something that belongs to the 19th century. In fact, all the events that we've discussed today all belong to the 19th century, but don't worry. Because today in this session, we are basically, in the theme one, we basically talked about the British conquest. Now, British conquest is over, but the methods of the British conquest are still not being discussed, a lot of them. For example, Subsidiary Alliance. Now, from the next session onwards, that is the theme 2, we will discuss about the governor generals and we'll look at the different things that have happened over in their time. And we will try to recapture the things that we have discussed in this particular theme as well. Okay? So that brings a close to our theme 1. And with this, we finish the session and see you all in the next theme. Bye-bye. Thank you. And after your second theme, we'll meet again. We'll try to meet again. For example, there are a few questions needs to be discussed and few doubts which we can be solved. Bye-bye. See you all.